estudiando.
Vamos a sonar la palabra.
Estamos en clases.
Se pronuncia literature.
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 Ajá, literature. Y ahora escríbela. L-I-T-E-R-A-T-U-R-E. Literature.
Literature.
Okay.
Literature.
Luego, este es el apellido que también va a decir un poquito. Es Kulkarni. K-A-L-K-A-R-A-N-I.
Espérese, maestra. Ni.
Kulkarni.
Ok.
Y esto es fifth.
Ah,
Fifth.
también pronuncia eso.
Fifth.
Ok.
Okay. ¿Cuál otra palabra necesitabas ayuda?
En graders.
Graders.
Ahí también.
Graders. G-R-A-D-E-R-R-S. Graders.
Graders.
¿En cuál otra?
Donde dice preferred.
Preferred. Preferred. P-R-E-F-E-R-R-E-D.
B, E, F. Preferred, con D.
Ajá. Entonces, preferred.
Y también donde no pude pronunciar es MRS.
Esto es una abbreviation, nomás significa miss.
Miss. Pero yo puse MIRS.
Es miss. Como la R es como que no estuviera ahí.
Esas son las.
La R es que está casada. Si es MRS es que está casada. Si nomás es MS es que es soltera.
Es soltera. Y clearly también no pude pronunciarlo.
Clearly.
¿Pude pronunciarlo?
Sí, clearly.
Clearly. Okay.
So, C-L-E-A-R-L-Y.
Pero sí lo pronuncié bien.
Clearly.
Okay.
Ok. Ahora juntos lo vamos a repasar para asegurar que lo vamos a leer juntas.
Tú también tienes que participar.
Pues yo tengo que escribir todo y no sé nada.
Pues yo tampoco, mira, ella nos está enseñando.
Lo vamos a
Entonces la
leer.
aplicanza, a nivel burrito.
Lo vamos a decir todos juntos. Tú también, para que fluya más rápido. So, my preferred teacher is Miss Kulkarni. Kulkarni.
Kulkarni.
I like her.
I like her
Because
she explains
the
content
clearly. She teaches literature to fifth graders at Highlands Elementary. Okay, good job. Entonces, so evidently you know a little bit more of English, but if you didn't know English, that paragraph would have been a little more difficult to comprehend and read throughout. And imagine your child in the environment where they are thrown a whole different language and are expected to read it without being it shown to them. So this is how it could cause anxiety, it could not want them to go to school, and overall it would negatively impact your child's development. So this is why it's important for a bilingual education classroom to be implied in all districts, because it is important and it is beneficial for everyone. So if you didn't understand certain words, whenever I went over them with you, they were a little more easier and clearly understanding. So imagine your child going through this since a young age, and they'll learn gradually until they're fluent in it. So it'll be a much easier task, and it'll be less of a hassle, with a lot of benefits as well that your child will benefit. So this is why it's important for the transition between native language to English should be encouraged at a younger age, as well as it is easier than when you're older. So who benefits? So we discussed this. Obviously, your child and you benefit. So it actually holds for higher communication skills. So two languages, why would it not be beneficial for communication? You can talk and interact with more people. It also forms strong foundations for other languages. So if your child decides to take up a third language and become trilingual, it'll be much easier because they were developed and instructed in a way that it wouldn't be as difficult the third time around. They also develop awareness for language. What that just means is they're a little bit more aware of certain words, and they know how to use it more carefully. It aids in future search for occupancy. So occupancy is jobs. So in future, when your child searches for work or whatnot, then they could add to the resume that they're bilingual, and this would actually make them a more effective worker and a more unique worker, which would promote higher, and it would make them stand out of the rest. So it could actually make way for a higher salary and higher employment benefits, because not a lot of people are bilingual, so that is an advantage that your child could take. They also have higher cognitive function, which is just developmental of their brain, how they think. They can move things. They're faster at processing certain information than a single bilingual or a single language student would speak. It also promotes parent involvement. So we talked about this. So whenever the child comes home, the parent could help and could aid, as well as the parent could receive a paper in English, and they would ask their child to translate it. So therefore, there is involvement between the two. And I know this can be difficult for working parents that don't really bond with the child. So this is a way for both of you to learn something together and bond as well. It also promotes inhibition and task switching. And what that just is a fancy word of saying multitasking. So they can do more than one task at a time and easier. And they're actually less likely to develop age-related dementia, which is actually pretty interesting because it's their brain, it just works. It's something about learning two languages that helps the brain fluid more. Helps the brain work more. And if you're actually interested in more of that, you can look into that. I found that one very interesting when I was going through my research. And also, it develops a flexible brain, which aids in creating abstract thoughts, which is crucial for learning. So what that is that in the learning environment, the child is allowed to think out of the box. So their thoughts are more profound, more intellectual than the rest of the children. So it just asks for better learning environments, more beneficial for you to everyone, not just the native speakers, but also for the ones who are just speak English and they're mixed between the bilingual kids. They also benefit because they learn from one another. So this is why it's really important to encourage the bilingual environment. So how is it taught? So this is very important because evidently this is what the whole topic is about. So first and foremost, we will start with the teacher's foundation. So the teacher should be knowledgeable of the native language. So in this case, we are focusing more on Spanish, but it could be any language. It could be Italian, French, German, any language. But for this primarily Spanish. It's culture, lifestyle to make students feel welcome and safe. So if the teacher, for example, Spanish, as I said, so they should be related. If it's Hispanic or Mexican, Cinco de Mayo or Day of the Kid or the Mother, they should use these holidays to promote this learning environment, and it'll also make the child feel more familiar because it helps celebrate what they're used to. So that is one way to contribute safety around one another. It could also be taught with half of the class will be taught. I think this would be most beneficial if the class is filled with bilingual kids that share solely the same native language. So it would be when half the class is taught in the native language, and the other half would be focused on English. So the curriculum will still work as usual, just in two different languages and switching. And once the students get a little bit more comfortable with the English and understand more, you'll gradually stop using their native language. So for example, the teacher may lecture in the language, and then the students must answer in English, which they'll still understand it. They'll just have to answer it, which helps practice enunciation and helps them comprehend the words that they use. In addition, teachers should also encourage consistency outside the environment. So just like any other task that you're willing to make, you have to be consistent. If you're not consistent, then you're really not going to learn anything, are you? So that's also their role model. So they should set a good example and promote kids to use English as much as they can outside the classroom. Also, so we all know bookwork is boring. No one likes to do it. No one really learns from it. So really, hands-on activities are what's promoted and encouraged. This way, kids can have fun and remember, and then they'd be even happier to go back home and practice the activities with their parents. So, these are just some ways of how it could work. And like I said, it's more important for your child to go through this healthy environment where they're more familiar and they struggle less than they've been thrown into the lion's den, if you will, with no background in English whatsoever, and then they give the assignment like I did to you right now, and not know how to interact or how to read it and feel embarrassed when they're asked to read. This is why it's important to take in consideration everyone's situation, and whether in this case it's language, but it's important to really think about it. And this is why I believe bilingual education is an important asset to the education system. Yeah, yes, so.
Yo quiero más. Pensé que no se iba a acabar.